Father Timothy?
Yeah, they were trying to. I looked at my calendar, it still said like 10, and I was like,
I'm not sure.
it's not here, so I was making sure. Hey, is that budget meeting get together this Saturday? Okay, I'll make sure.
I don't know how long though. I haven't seen.
6:02 on the calendar.
I forget the calendar there. I used to have.
Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome you all here tonight. Thank you for being with us. We are going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Wendell Middle School student Antral Drummond. Could come up, please. I want to tell you a little bit about him while he's coming to the microphone. Wendell Middle School wants to recognize Antral Drummond, one of our 8th grade students, for being kind to those around him. He is always helpful to his teachers and very considerate of his classmates. He is a mature student who thinks of others before he thinks of himself and wants to perform just as well as he does, and he wants them to perform as well as he does. When he's in class, he is focused on being a good student and is always a model for those around him. We look forward to seeing the great things Antral will do in high school and out in the world. Those are that's very complimentary of you, and that was from the principal of your school. So, congratulations. We're very proud of you. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wendell Middle School is always very enthusiastic when they come. I appreciate that. Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Father McKay of St. Eugene's Catholic Church.
Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. So let us put ourselves in the most holy presence of God as we invoke the guidance of the Lord as we conduct this town hall meeting. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect the life, livelihood, and future of our town of Wendell. Lord, continue to remind us that all that we do here tonight, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth and for the greater glory of your name, and for the service of our community and humanity. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day to you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda? All right, motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
We have one person signed up for public comment tonight. To participate in public comment, the public can do the following things. You can sign up for public comment the night of the meeting if you're attending in person, and sign up at the podium. You have 3 minutes to speak. You can submit written statements via the town clerk by the Friday prior to the board meeting before 5. Please include your full name and address, and those written public comments will be received and read into the record for a length of 3 minutes, and copies provided to the board before the meeting. The public can also request to call the Uber conference line the night of the meeting, also by emailing the town clerk. Please provide your name, address, and note what the agenda item that you're interested in speaking at, and that it is for the regular public comment period as opposed to speaking at a public hearing. Like I said, we have one person signed up for tonight, and that is Carl Wheatzel. believe I pronounced that correctly, I hope so.
Close enough. Good evening, my name is Carl Wetzel, and I live at 417 Daniel Ridge Road in Wendell. I've lived in Wendell since 2016 and the general area here since 1999. First, I'd like to express my gratitude and excitement for the changes and growth that have taken place so far in Wendell, including the revitalization of the downtown area and the new commercial additions coming to and around not only Tree Light Square, but other areas of the town as well. However, I have some concerns I wish to bring to the board's attention in the hopes that they, along with the town, can alleviate. I noticed this past week that the newly constructed and completed townhomes along Wendell Falls Parkway in Stone Arbor are being offered for rent by a company by the name of Progress Residential. This piqued my curiosity as that is a name that is new to me. I researched the current owner of the completed townhomes and found that they, along with Progress Residential, are owned by Pretty Partners, LLC, a private equity firm with multinational investors. Pretty Partners is the second largest rental landlord in the United States with at least 66,000 homes that they own in their portfolio. Ashton Woods Homes, Starlight Homes, the builder of our Stone Arbor, sold these townhomes to the current owner controlled by Pretty Partners. Ashton Woods and Starlight Homes has recently acquired Capital City Homes, which is building in Wendell Falls. My concerns are that this builder, Ashton Woods Homes, Starlight Homes, will continue to sell their homes directly to the private equity firm in Stone Arbor and will begin doing the same in Wendell Falls and elsewhere. I'm afraid that other developers and builders will soon do the same. This practice of selling to private equity firms is dramatically driving up the price of homes, squeezing out those in the lower middle class. It's not fair to those who live and work in Wendell, particularly those who wish to live in Wendell and call it home. It could be said that this private equity firm is preventing those renters who would otherwise own these homes from building their own equity and wealth. Now, I'm as free market as they come. I believe in investing, I believe in wealth generation. But the practice of private equity firms buying up all the available housing to turn into rentals is wrong. I strongly encourage this board and the Wendell Planning Department to investigate ways in which Wendell can put a stop to this practice of large swaths of subdivisions being sold to private equity firms. If they're not legally able to do this, then they need to find ways within the law to minimize this practice and ensure that those who wish to partake in the American dream of home ownership are able to build equity and wealth for themselves and their families and call Wendell home, and are able to do so without being outbid and pushed aside by private equity firms. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. We're going to be recognizing Wendell Middle School teacher Karen Craig. If Ms. Craig can come up to the podium. This was submitted by her principal. We would like to recognize Karen Craig for 37 years that she has devoted to educating our students. Ms. Craig had retired and she had just started to substitute for our school prior to all students going home to engage in virtual learning as a result of the pandemic. When we returned to school the next school year, Ms. Craig made the decision to teach students rather than to substitute. She quickly became the rock of her team of teachers, always helping others stay focused on what was important and modeling the characteristics of a steadfast educator in one of the most challenging circumstances we've faced. Ms. Craig decided to return again this year to teach more students, and the students love her dearly and look to her for guidance each and every day. We are fortunate to have Karen Craig in our building, as she does just as much to support our staff as she does our students. We wanted to invite you here tonight, Ms. Craig, and thank you for everything that you do for the students and the staff at Wendell Middle School. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I don't have a lot to say. I have always lived in the Raleigh area, but for some reason I've chosen to work here. And I started out at Carver Elementary. I've done some years at Corinth Holders Elementary, and this is where my heart is. So I enjoy the work and the kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're glad your heart is here.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4B is a report on the addition of 3- and 4-way stops in identified areas, and we're going to hear from Public Works Director, Brian Bray.
Good evening, Madam Mayor
Good evening.
and Board of Commissioners. Very happy to bring this presentation to you tonight regarding the proposed 3- and 4-way stop intersections. Town staff has evaluated areas throughout Wendell and identified several locations that we believe a 3- or 4-way stop will assist with traffic calming. Criteria that we looked at when making these determinations have been crash data, speeding vehicle evaluations, long stretches of roadway that's uninterrupted, and citizen complaints. So the implementation of the changes would be completed in stages, likely 2. Public Works staff will install the signs and attach flags to either side of each new pole. There would also be signage from Public Works identifying a stop ahead in areas identified as the most worrisome problematic. The police department will likely also deploy their message board trailer to assist with traffic recognizing the new stop signs also. And then we would look to use social media notifications as well as the message board to get the locations out. Public Works, we have consulted with the police department regarding enforcement, messaging, and length of time between the installation of the signage in one area before we move on to the next stage. The recommendation is that we install multiple signs and for that first stage, and then allow up to 4 weeks for education and any needed enforcement before we move on. We'll also leave the flagging in place for at least those 4 weeks, and if the police department would like, we can leave it longer. And the areas in the estimated time frame for install are listed in the next frames. This shows the first part of stage 1, which is our downtown area, and you'll see that many of the signs are DOT roadways. And staff is going to request that NCDOT make these upgrades. Our goal would be to begin implementation for all of this as early as March. But this is going to be dependent upon NCDOT's willingness as well as their schedule. So we would start only with the town roads if there is a delay, and I'll speak a little bit more to that here shortly. So the current most pressing areas are this slide, which is downtown, and then the second slide, which would be downtown north. And again, the DOT roads would be 4th and Cypress, 4th and Pine, 3rd and Cypress, 3rd and Pine, Wendell Falls Parkway, and 3rd. And then our 2 town roadways shown here are 1st and Cypress and 4th and Main. The second part of stage 1 would be downtown north, and that would be a 4-way stop added to West Academy and North Main, East Academy and North Pine, Now and North Pine, and then a 3-way stop added to Now and North Main. And so if all went well with DOT's scheduling and their willingness, all of this would be our stage 1. And then our stage 2 would start in Timberlake with 3-way stops at Wood Green and Cedarmere, Wood Green and Deer Lake Trail, and Wood Green and Mugo Pine. And a single 3-way stop at Commander and Hoyle Holly Trace. And wrapping up stage 2 would be Wendell Falls, a 4-way stop at Big Falls and Mallard Trace, and another 4-way stop at Big Falls and Liberty Star. And so, those are all the town roads. And if there was an issue with NCDOT, a delay, we would likely just put all of the town roads together and make that stage 1. We just sort of roll that out, and then stage 2 would be when DOT comes online at that point. So we would just, change it up a little bit. And then related to these changes are the types of stop sign poles also used within the town. Here's a photo of one of the ones at 3rd and Cypress. It's we want to move toward the decorative black poles. Our new developments are installing these as well, and we have several already downtown. So soon we'll present a specifications update for consent that'll show that this would become the town standard if approved. And then Public Works will, one of the things that I would speak to is Public Works would only have to stock one type of pole, and there's advantages with that. And we would start out with this, with adding the new signs and poles downtown, upgrading to this type as budget allows. And it also improves sight lines because you only have one pole for stop and for your streets on there as well. This would likely be a multi-year initiative to fully complete it. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Brian, will some of these intersections I know already have stop bars and
some don't. Will the ones that do have stop bars, any of those that are faded, be refreshed as part of this? And/or will you be considering adding stop bars on the pavement at any additional intersections?
That is something that we have discussed as far as the adding of stop bars. On town roadways, we do try to go back and refresh, it's normally about a 3-year cycle on that, specifically downtown, for us to come back in and repaint the curbs, then stop bars and things like that. But we would like to, you know, look at adding more stop bars.
Thank you, and please remind our friends at DOT that we'd love for them to keep theirs well painted too.
Absolutely.
And one more, if you don't mind, Mayor.
Yeah.
I think that at the intersection of Main and Fourth, I just think about the way the parking's currently configured. Will any of these include, I don't know, the traffic island is the right word, but a adjustment of where the curb actually is, or will they be, I just want to think about, will we be able to see all these stop signs? Like if you're coming south on Main Street to that Fourth Street intersection, I don't know where a stop sign would be that potentially might not be blocked by a car parked in a parking spot.
Sir, I'm sorry, were you speaking?
The project that's being presented tonight is just for sign replacement. Any streetscape enhancements would be a later project with streetscapes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, item 4C is an IT policy discussion, and we're going to hear from Stephanie Smith.
Good evening. Staff has recently prepared several information technology policies to address current technological needs, including security, acceptable use, and asset management. What we're asking for is approval to authorize the manager to approve specifically the acceptable use policy and standards. The other policies that were sent separately in a memo last week are approved administratively by the town manager. Implementation for all of the policies is scheduled for this spring. Specifically about the acceptable use policy and standards, the purpose of that policy is to outline the acceptable use of computer equipment and other electronic devices and resources when conducting Town of Wendell business. These policies are in place to protect both employees and the town. Inappropriate use exposes the town to risks including virus attacks, compromise of network systems and services, and legal issues. The policies, including acceptable use, are all you would say kind of a long time overdue. With our IT specialist, we have a member of staff that can implement and reinforce those policies, and so the rollout will be mainly handled by that position. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the board? All right, I guess not.
I've got the next two.
Okay. I was getting ready to say, because you said something about to approval, and it just said presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the scheduled approval will be at the next meeting.
That's what I thought, okay. Okay, so electrical vehicle charging station policy.
Thank you. We have recently added 2 electrical vehicle charging stations on Campen Row that Public Works is preparing for use. So as such, we've prepared an update to the electric vehicle charging station policy, as well as a text amendment to reflect those updates and allow police to enforce those policy rules. Once everything is approved, and again, that would be scheduled for the next meeting, staff will create a web page on the town's website that outlines the policy and text amendment information, as well as include a frequently asked questions document in an effort to provide relevant information to the public. This is just a brief overview of the policy that we are proposing. It includes rules for use, as well as the plan to add additional stations as we seek those opportunities with parks projects and public facilities. We imagine these will be the first of many electric vehicle charging stations around town long term. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I have one. I think that the current language as proposed would, and Mark, maybe this is a question too about what's appropriate when, but current proposed language would say that I think a vehicle could be parked in the spot as long as it was plugged in, and as long as it had not reached a complete charge longer than 30 minutes previously. I would just say, I think it makes a lot of sense to keep some consistency in downtown and just have a 2-hour. I think people should have to be plugged in, but a 2-hour restriction instead of trying to base it off of the charge completion time that I'm not really sure we would have a way to know of in the first place. And it also just, I think, would be a consistency thing. So I don't know if, that's my feedback, I guess, at this point.
We can certainly amend the policy to provide that provision instead, if that's the pleasure of the board.
My question was gonna be to the enforceability of it, like how we were gonna know, so that solves that.
The machines will be able to indicate when the charge is complete, so it would be a matter of if there was a report that somebody had been parked there for a long time, police would be able to identify that that charge has been completed and then come back and check after a 30-minute period to see if that vehicle is still parked there. As an electric vehicle user, using the apps that are available to identify charging stations, you would receive a notification likely on your phone that your vehicle has completed its charge, and so that would be your notification that now you have 30 minutes to move your vehicle. So that the policy was written with the mindset that it would allow anybody to reach a full charge, which may take longer than 2 hours, and then that additional 30 minutes to move your vehicle. But again, that timing certainly can be amended depending on what the board would like to see.
I like the way it is.
I like the idea of continuity as well, I do. But I wonder if this isn't one of those times that if it does take 30 minutes to charge, in 2 hours you could charge 4 cars there. So I'm wondering if, because of technology and phone apps, and we all have them, here's mine right here, we all have them, you know, I think when you know your car's charged, you need to move it so someone else can use it. So I don't know, but I get what you're saying too, and I also get the enforceability part of it, but I understand why y'all landed where you did.
I would also add that whatever policy, this is a new policy for the town, so we certainly will be monitoring how things are going, and like all of our policies, we'll be open to making adjustments as needed once we start to receive some data about the usage and what the behavior patterns are for people utilizing those stations as well.
Have other towns, implemented similar policies like this?
Our policy is based on the existing policy of a neighboring jurisdiction that has felt that they have success with the way their policy is written.
Okay.
And the only thing is, we're not charging yet.
Correct.
Any fees.
Well, we're electrically charging, but not financially
getting any-
charging.
They get a free charge.
Correct.
I don't like that, but
I do think, in section 2, it says, while there is no limit to length of use. I understand that the intent of that probably means over the course of time and not just per charge, but that might be something that, we would need to clarify.
Yep, I can certainly clarify that wording.
And, you know, enforceability, I think, is the thing if we're gonna enforce it. I just think for ease, you know, the two-hour things, if we have 2-hour parking, we have 2-hour parking, we gotta be plugged in. We can always change that if we figure out that, I'm assuming the technology is there to monitor how many cars, how long it's taking to charge. If we figure out that 80% of the cars are taking 25 minutes to charge, well then sure, I think we change that, but
Okay.
I don't envision a scenario where, you know, Chief Carter has everybody riding by checking the electrical charging station. So, my 2 cents.
So,
Is it possible that we could maybe have a little sign or a little note out there that says, you know, please kindly move when you're done charging? But we would know we weren't gonna, you know, that would give us the enforcement latitude, would give us the continuity, but it would maybe remind some people to move their car once they're charged. I think some probably would, but I also think there are people who will park there for 2 hours too, you know, so it's kind of a balancing act.
You could go the not to exceed 2 hours if you wanted to do it that way. 30 minutes upon completion, not to exceed 2 hours. Kind of kills both of them.
And I feel like we're getting down in the weeds and we
Yeah, I think,
take the recommendation.
Especially since we're going by a neighboring town that's been doing it, go with the 30 minutes like you have it, because they already have something that works, so anyway.
One last thing, I think, just maybe to bring back home the reason and the direction I think I'm going. I think that the staff proposal, really well thought, I mean, I think it's a strong proposal, makes a lot of sense. I think that it weights a little bit toward having additional parking opportunities for electric vehicle chargers. I also think that strictly limiting someone to 30 minutes after, let me clarify, potentially could weight toward those folks being able to park longer than anybody else in downtown. At the same time, it could potentially weight toward those folks, if their car charges quickly, not being able to park downtown as long as anyone else. And to me, it just seems like if we get away from the 30-minute thing and just say, these are chargers for electric vehicles, and they have the same parking rules as everybody else, which is 2 hours, it keeps you from having to wait either way toward or against the ability of these folks to park downtown, and it makes it the same as everybody else.
I actually do have a question too.
Sure.
I know there are two, stations there.
Mhm.
Are there 2 chargers per station? So there are
Correct.
4 total?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm excited about it. I mean, I do not own an electric vehicle, but, I've been in favor of it from the start, so I'm excited about it. It's a destination for a lot of folks, and, you know, hopefully a lot of people will stop in Wendell, before they get to North Hills. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Is there something that we need to do to make the availability of our charging stations known out in the world? Is that a step we need to take?
Yes, so we are in the process of making sure that our charging stations are registered and will appear on the typical apps that people use to locate those charging stations.
Because when we discussed this way back at the very beginning, we saw it as an economic development tool as well, to get
Correct.
people to come here. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Last one, text amendment to allow manager to authorize alcohol on town property at Campin Road and Town Square.
Staff is requesting the board to authorize the town manager to allow alcohol at Campin Row as well as Town Square in the context and during special events. This is an effort to streamline the event permitting in town and allow applicants a more efficient application process. As you know, currently, we receive special event applications that request the use of alcohol on town property. That's required to come before the board for approval. We have found that depending on the timing of those events and the timing of the board meetings, we've had to either walk items onto an agenda, or we've had to work with an event applicant to adjust their dates so that we can accommodate by bringing that item to the board on an agenda. If approved, again, this will be scheduled for the next meeting. All approvals will still be reported to the board, so you'll still be made aware of when those approvals have taken place. And as always, applicants will need to ensure compliance with current alcohol regulations as outlined by the ABC Commission, and will name the town of Wendell as an additional insured for the duration of the use of public space. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 4F is a proclamation proclaiming February as Black History Month. So I'm just going to read the proclamation. Whereas the history of African Americans is a history of resilience and perseverance, and whereas it traces a people who refused to accept the circumstances under which they arrived on these shores, and it chronicles the generations who fought for America that truly reflect the ideals enshrined in our founding documents. And whereas it is the narrative of slaves who shepherded others among the paths to freedom, and preachers who organized against the rules of Jim Crow, of young people who sat in at lunch counters, and courageous men and women who took extraordinary risks to change our nation for the better. And whereas Black History Month affords a special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have contributed to the progress of our nation. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all of our citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers of equality for minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners, I, Virginia Gray, Mayor of the Town of Wendell, do hereby proclaim February 2022 as Black History Month in the town of Wendell, and I urge all of our citizens to join together in making this period of rededication to the principles of justice and equality for all people. Duly proclaimed this the 14th day of February 2022, and it's signed by me. I think it's very nice that we're doing it on our Valentine's Day, which is a holiday where we are reminded of people who are important to us and our family and our loved ones. So, I don't know, that struck me that we're doing that today. So, item 4G is the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance presentation. Mr. Collins.
Good evening. In your packet was included the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance that was adopted on October 18th, 2021, that went into effect earlier this month on February 1st, 2022. The presentation tonight is presentation only, and I will cover next steps if the board so directs at the end of the presentation. First, I just want to go over why non-discrimination ordinances a little bit. What's the purpose behind them? First is kind of the obvious one. It promotes principles of diversity, inclusion, harmony, equal treatment for all, and thereby promotes the health, safety, and welfare of those who live, work, and visit Wake County. This is not unlike our own vision statements and principles within our strategic plan about being an inclusive community that's inviting to all. It provides an additional protection for protected classes from discrimination. So it's another process for what's already protected under the law. And as the attorney would tell you, it also extends the definition of protected class beyond what's covered currently under traditional laws. And third is probably one most people wouldn't think about, but it promotes economic development. North Carolina took a punch in the eye with its public issues related to not allowing non-discrimination ordinances. And when larger companies are looking to locate in communities in North Carolina, they're having really tough discussions with economic development departments about the appropriateness of what they believe in areas of this, and making sure that those communities are suitable for their employees to move into. And so there's an economic development component also behind Wake County adopting a non-discrimination ordinance. The jurisdiction of the Wake County ordinance is that it applies to all unincorporated areas of Wake County. It also allows for municipal jurisdictions to opt in to the ordinance to cover their jurisdictions under the Wake County. And in doing so, there would be a signatory requirement to an interlocal agreement with the county for the service. The definition of protected class in the ordinance provided by Wake County means race, natural hair or hairstyles, ethnicity, creed, color, sex, pregnancy, marital or familial status, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, national origin or ancestry, National Guard or veteran status, religious belief or non-belief, age or disability. And so you hear probably some of the familiar protected classes that you hear normally, and it extends a few there. The Wake County ordinance applies to the following places. Public accommodations. They would not be able to deny a person the full and equal enjoyment of the accommodations, advantages, facilities, or privileges due to a person's inclusion in what's defined as protected class under this ordinance. Also, employment and contracting. And for the town, we think of that also as our employees and also external private companies as well. It prevents discrimination in personnel actions and compliance certification for companies seeking to do business with the county. There are exceptions under the code related to housing, religious freedoms, and restrooms. So there are some exceptions under that, but would generally prevent discrimination in personnel actions, and also any company seeking to do business with the county, and if the town opted in with the town, would have to provide a statement that they are in compliance with this ordinance. It establishes a Wake County grievance process. An individual seeking to file a grievance under this ordinance would do so through a portal at a Wake County website. They wouldn't apply to the town. There's no administrative oversight to the town if we opt in. It'd be handled through that county website. It'd be handled through a contract with Campbell Law School. They're a private provider to mediate and seek a resolution to the grievance. Filing a grievance through this process does not preclude an individual from other remedies, so it doesn't deprive anybody some other avenue that's currently allowed under the law. And there's limited public information available. The initial information provided to Wake County in the portal would be public, so municipalities would hear if anybody within their municipality filed a grievance within a past period of time. But there's limited public information, so there is privacy both to the aggrieved and the accused of grieving. The county has also offered to cover the full program expenses for the county and municipalities for all of FY23 for any municipality that opts in. The anticipated Wendell cost of the program is only $500. So that's the basics of what the Wake County's ordinance is. Next steps, this week on Friday, the municipal attorneys and county attorney's office have been providing comments for review of the ILA and how the ordinance works. They have a meeting to discuss that, so the attorneys are working out the details of how this works. Once that ILA is established, then the town would be able to adopt the county's ordinance by reference and become a party to an ILA with Wake County for its implementation, if so requested by the board. And I'd be happy to take any questions you may have, receive direction, and the town attorney is also available. If it wanders into the legal realm, I won't practice law, I'll leave that to him.
Any questions from the board?
One clarification. By opting in, we do join the grievance process through the county, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then you said it's $500 every year after that, or it's free this year? And then
Free this year. If we had paid a proportionate anticipated share this year, it would be $500. Obviously, not knowing how many people would avail themselves of the service and how that's geographically dispersed, that may change over time, but it's not seen as a large fiscal impact. The fiscal impact isn't something I would consider as a major factor in to do it or not do it.
I would just quickly say, I think it makes a ton of sense for consistency across the county and also as an opportunity to really put on display, I think, the values that our town has of welcoming folks and making sure that everybody's treated fairly in Wendell. So I appreciate you bringing it to us, and I hope we'll see an ordinance from you soon.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I know we're not voting tonight, but I support it.
Thank you.
Two feel-good things in a row.
Yes.
On Valentine's Day. All right, item number 5. Public hearing. Public participation for public hearing items on the agenda. can be provided either in person the night of the meeting or may be submitted in writing in advance. The public can attend the night of the meeting and present 5 minutes worth of comments at the podium or submit written public comment to the town clerk via email. If you do that, please provide your name, address, and the agenda item of your comments, and copies will be distributed to the board prior to the meeting, and it will be read into the length of 5 minutes. You can also request to call in the Uber conference the night of the meeting and by going through the same steps. And also, prior to meetings, if you have a question, you can call Town Hall and you can be directed to the appropriate staff person to answer your questions. And those communications are not included in our minutes. We have one public hearing tonight. It's a public hearing on zoning text amendments, ZTA 2201 to Section 5.10 Townhouse Buildings, Section 14.4B Technical Review Committee, Section 17.4 Traffic Control Signs, Signals and Markings, Chapter 15 Administration, Chapter 16 Development Plan Requirements, and Section 2.19 Plan Unit Developments of the UDO. Ms. Griffin, Assistant Planning Director, Stacy Griffin.
Thank you. That was a long title. So these are several cleanup items for you tonight, and I'll go through those quickly for you. The specific action would be to hold the public hearing and to consider adopting the attached ordinance. It's in your packet. Amendment 1 removes the requirements for townhomes to be accessed only via an alley in the rear. The town attorney advised us that this is a change that we needed to make. So it would also establish a 20-foot setback for townhomes based on where the vehicular access for the townhome is. So if it is accessed in the front setback would be 20. If it is accessed in the rear, it would be a rear 20-foot setback to allow for parking wherever the vehicular access is. Amendment 2 is change to the Technical Review Committee makeup. That does remove the ex officio members from the TRC. It's voted on by the Board of Commissioners in April of 2021. And adds, quote unquote, other technical review personnel to the TRC to allow for flexibility if we should need to bring other agencies in that are not listed by name in the ordinance as it stands. Amendment 3 was at the request of Chief Staples. It adds a provision for traffic control signal preemption for new developments when a TIA or traffic study determines that traffic signal preemption is warranted or improvements to a currently signalized intersection are required. The developer must provide the full or partial funding for the preemption system and its installation. This is to allow for public safety vehicles. Amendment 4 is part of the administration chapter, and which is 15, and chapter 16 for development plan requirements. This incorporates the requirement for a neighborhood meeting for all rezonings, whether it's conditional or general, and for all special use permit requests. As drafted, it could be virtual or in person. The applicant must notify the adjacent owners at least 10 days in advance of the meeting. Town staff is able to provide that list of property owners to the applicant. It does require minutes, a list of notices that are mailed, a list of attendees, and that should be done prior to the first public meeting for the project. So if it's a rezoning, it would be prior to the planning board. If it is a special use permit, it would be prior to meeting with this board. It does note that the item will not be placed on the appropriate agenda and without holding that neighborhood meeting as well. Amendment 4 also makes changes to Chapter 15 and Chapter 16. It deletes a chart showing how many paper plans must be turned in with each submittal. Planning Department is thankfully no longer reviewing all of the paper plans and does that electronically now, so wanted to remove that invalid reference there. It removes charts from the UDO where those processes are already written out in the text. It makes a correction to the minor subdivision section to remove a listed item that is not legally a minor subdivision. and changes some terminology. Most prevalent would be it changes construction documents to construction drawings, which is more commonly used. And Amendment 5 changes the minimum acreages for our plan unit developments, or PUDs, from 200 acres, regardless of whether it's strictly residential or if it's mixed use, to now, the suggested threshold would be 25 acres for a mixed use plan unit development, and to keep the 200 acre minimum that are solely residential PUDs. The planning board did hear this at their January meeting and voted unanimously to approve the 5 text amendments with one condition. They did request changing the phrase neighborhood meeting to adjacent property owners meetings in all instances where neighborhood meeting appears. There you have before you the statement of comprehensive plan, consistency and reasonableness for each amendment. It does meet key principles 6, 9, 10, and 3, respectively. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board? Is neighborhood meeting defined anywhere in any of our stuff to change that to adjacent, is that?
It is not defined in our definitions section. We do note that it is a list of all adjacent property owners, which is consistent with who we notify for public hearings for those items. And so that's why we kept it to that adjacent property owners.
Okay. So it's semantics, means the same thing though, I just want to make sure, okay. Are there any other questions from the board?
What was the whole reason for the townhouse? That was a legal thing that had to be changed? With the driveways and?
The state legislature does not allow us to put design requirements on single-family homes, and having only rear accessed townhomes would be considered a design requirement, and therefore we needed to remove the requirement that they be only alley loaded.
Yeah, we were preempted on design regulations.
Design, and also, but they're allowed to change them all in the rentals if they want.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I've got one moment. So reducing the PUD down to 25, and it may have just been worded wrong on the slide, but for residential, one's for residential, one's for commercial, or one's for mixed use?
We would want to keep the 200 if the PUD is only residential. If it is mixed use and incorporates commercial aspects, we would ask that that be reduced to 25 acres as a minimum requirement.
Anyone else? Did you have anything?
Just a quick one to echo some of Commissioner Tarnasky's concerns. I wish that we didn't have to make the townhome rule, and I'm gonna vote for it because I think it makes sense to have ordinances that reflect the law and aren't confusing. But I do wish that, yeah, I like those front entrance, or I guess rear entrance, front door up at the sidewalk version. Love to see those when we see them, but appreciate you bringing all these, and I think there are some real good changes in here.
That can be accomplished through zoning conditions. It's just not something that we can require at this point.
Anything else from the board? All right, is there anyone here that would like to weigh in? Here with us tonight? All right, nothing else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's y'all's pleasure?
adopt the proposed amendments as presented by staff.
And adopt the attached ordinance?
Sure.
Okay. So we have a motion to adopt approve the text amendment changes proposed by staff and adopt the ordinance attached. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Anyone opposed? Okay, 4 to 1. All right, we have no administrative items tonight. Moving to our other business, update on board committee by town board members. Wendell Volunteer Fire Department, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Department Board met last Thursday. Among the items discussed was actually the text amendment, obviously, that the chief requested. It's an exciting upgrade in technology the fire department's looking to implement for a variety of reasons. So we appreciate town staff working with them to get that text amendment filled up. And the fire chief had his first meeting with the county on budget today, and that is the next thing, and I think all of our worlds is preparing budgets. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Right. Triangle J Council of Governments, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met January the 26th. We did a virtual meeting again. Hope to meet in person again soon. A brief recognition of new members and alternates. I am the delegate from Wendell, and Commissioner Eatman is the alternate. So they acknowledged us, which was cool. Commissioner Eatman and I were both on the call. A couple items of business presented: the fiscal year financial statements. We did have a presentation on how to utilize some of the census information, which was pretty informative and interesting. As a stats and a numbers guy, it's pretty cool to be able to drill down in some of that information. We talked about committee members, nominating folks for that, some transportation choice proposals, and then the always fun around the region, which is when we go around, sort of give our what Wendell is up to. So it's always nice to share some of the great things we have going on. So tjcog.org if anybody wants more information on that. And we will meet again. I think we have anyway, it doesn't matter, but they just canceled the upcoming meeting. They got an email. So meeting again in 2 months.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners' reports. We'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I wanted to thank Mr. Wetzel for his comments. Certainly, ironically enough, Commissioner Lutz and I were having that conversation right before you stood up. I appreciate staff, the amount of work. It's a boring thing for folks at home to listen to. We're talking about the text amendments. But I hope you hear the amount of thought and hard work that goes into creating that. It's a lot of technical stuff that makes everything happen in our regular world the way that you want it to happen. And so certainly appreciate staff for that. In line with appreciating people, I asked my wife a year ago to go off on a series of ventures with me. One was let's start a new business during a pandemic. 2 was let's go run a campaign for re-election. And I guess technically she informed me of 3, which was let's have a new daughter. I ask so much of her, and I'm always grateful that she continues to not only continue to allow me to ask for wild and crazy things like not being home on Valentine's night, but encouraging me to do all the things. So if you're listening, Megan, I love you and happy Valentine's Day.
Commissioner Lutz.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to all who came out for the inaugural Wendell Rotary Club Oyster Roast. It was a great success. Money was raised to put back into the local schools to help fund some literacy projects, and I think a good time was had by all. So we will certainly be looking forward to our next year. Thank you to the Wendell Country Club, who was very gracious in allowing us to kind of host there too. I encourage everybody, if you you know, the food over there has just been just on point lately. If you guys are just looking for a lunch spot some days and you feel like you've kind of done the same place, please encourage you to go over there and try them out too. They have got some good things happening in the kitchen there. Carl, to your comments earlier too, like Commissioner Joyner said, he and I were just discussing this earlier, and to me the idea of allowing people who are wanting to move to this area, have their home, build their equity is incredibly important for me. And while I know we've all lived in our neighborhoods where a house goes up for sale and some private equity company comes in and just can outbid and just win it, you know, that's one thing, but when you start to see it happening in developments in large swaths at a time too, it is concerning for me as a commissioner. Rental properties are needed in this town for people, but it does bother me when I know people are wanting to come here and set roots. I would like them to have the opportunity to be able to do that. So thank you for your words tonight too, and I appreciate that. Again, like Commissioner Joyner, I have a wife at home who is a much better person than I am and allows me to do so many good things. And so, again, to my wife, thank you, Janelle, and I hope you're enjoying your nice evening quietly without me nagging you. So.
Commissioner Eatman?
I was really excited to walk in tonight and find on my desk our annual comprehensive financial report for the town of Wendell. I really mean that. I was really excited, and I'm going to promise that I'm going to wait until tomorrow to read that. I'm not going to read it when I get home tonight, I promise. But as Wendell kicks off our budget development season over the next several months, if you want to talk about the things we've been spending money on and the ways we've been collecting money over the last year and your ideas about how we should do that the next few years, call me, text me, email me. I will enjoy talking to you about it. I want to hear from you. My phone number and contact information is on the town website. And to staff and both of you who are listening to us on the live stream online, I can't imagine it's many more than that. Thank y'all for spending your time with us tonight. I hope you can get home soon.
Thank you. Commissioner Tarnasky?
Good evening, Mayor, and happy Valentine's Day. And I'd like to wish my wife also a happy Valentine's Day for allowing me to come to the meeting tonight, spend it with you all. And I am also concerned about big areas being, you know, new buildings being built to be supposed to be sold for individual use, and they're being bought up and rented out instead of the whole complex. So it's, you know, I have to see what we can find out. We'll have to talk to our lawyer, and we'll have to find out what we can do. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach?
Yeah, I'll echo some of that. Thank you, Mayor. Look, my professional livelihood, you know, I care about home ownership and first-time home buyers, and you know, it's really a part of what we do every day. So, you know, it's concerning. We need more places in Wendell. So, I mean, there's no secret there. But home ownership is a dream for a lot of folks, and you know, as far as removing 100+ units from the possibility is a tough pill to swallow. But anyway, excited about the growth. I have no doubt that you know, the families that are moving here, regardless of rental, home ownership, whatever, you know, they'll love it as much as I do at some point. So excited to see that. I am glad to see that we will be requiring, and I'll make sure I get this right, adjacent property owners meetings. I've supported this. I think there are tons of examples of how they are effective, so I'm excited to see that happen. And I will confirm that Commissioner Eatman is excited about the annual comprehensive financial report. And I did actually invite my wife to join me here tonight for a Valentine's date, and she chose not to, so, I still love you, babe. If you're listening, God bless you for that. But happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I echo the concerns of the people on the board, and this is actually a conversation that we've had, and it's my understanding that, these large swaths that are being bought up in this way and turned into rental property is a problem that's happening all over. So, I think that we need to come up with some creative ways to deal with this new trend. I don't want to say too much. That might get us in some kind of trouble. But I think we're definitely aware of it and going to see what we can figure out about that. I have several reminders for tonight. The first is that the town has started accepting vendors for our new market. And it's going to, if you're a grower, a maker, a creative person, an artisan of some kind, if it's a full-time job or just something you do on the side, we are moving our market to Campin Row. It's going to be on Thursday nights, and it's going to be, let's see, from 6 to 9 on Thursday nights, May 9th, June 2nd, September 1st, October 6th, and November 3rd. The applications are on the town websites for the Wendell Market vendor applications. You can find them there. So take a look there if that's something that you're interested in. We think this is going to be maybe a better fit for what folks around here are looking for, and I'm excited about that. I've got a stack of things. Launch Wendell. The Launch Wendell program is looking for mentors. If you are a current business owner and willing to share your resources and advice, we would love for you to apply. Mentorships begin in April and last 6 months. The time commitment really varies depending on kind of what the person needs and what you're willing to do. Usually an hour to a month. And you can look at the website, launchwendell.com, to find out more information about that. Please consider that. This is a wonderful program, and it's also going on all over Wake County. The Wendell Market, let's see. I wanted to talk about the Chamber of Commerce banquet. The Wendell Chamber of Commerce had their banquet last week or so, and it was just a wonderful evening. The Chamber is really growing and doing great things here. I'm very proud of them. They really are spreading their wings and doing a lot of really great stuff. It was a very fun evening. I think everyone had a good time. Congratulations to everyone who won an award. Congratulations to P.D. Edwards. He was the Mayor's Award winner for 2021. We are certainly fortunate to have him as part of our community here in Wendell. He does some of everything. Reminder, Monday, February 21st from 5 to 8, Coffee with a Cop at 41 North Main Street. Thank you to them for spearheading that and having that. I wanted to tell you a little bit. I've been wanting to talk about this several times, and I've put it off because I felt like we were going too long. So I'm just going to go ahead tonight because we haven't had such a long meeting. And I received another email from him, from Frank Doherty. Frank Doherty is a Wendell resident. I met him about 6 years ago when I was very first elected mayor, and he is a bird watching advocate. And he is a member of the Audubon Society, and he was interested in starting a bird watching program here in Wendell because we have a lot of wooded areas and places where birds might be found. So I connected him with the Parks and Rec staff and asked them if this was something that they might be interested in offering opportunity for people to walk on the trails and things at the park. And at the beginning of this year, there have been over 700 birders come to Wendell to do bird watching, and they have identified 121 species of birds, plus this last weekend they saw deer, river otters, and so forth, and bald eagles, and there's a great horned owl nest here with 2 little baby owlets in it, which he will walk you by and show you where that is. So I wanted to mention Frank because he is very unassuming, very quiet and kind, and just really wants to share his information about nature and things with people who want to know. And, you know, it's nice to meet folks like that. He doesn't expect anything in return and just wants to do good things for our community. So if that's something that you're interested in, contact the Parks and Rec staff, and you can go and walk out there, and he'll show you a bunch of great things in our park. And he's just very anxious to expand that as our park space expands, which I'm sure will let him walk around at those places as well, because why would you not? So, anyhow, thank you to Mr. Frank Doherty, because he's just a great guy. The next thing I wanted to tell you is kind of a funny story. I was invited to speak to the local Boy Scouts this past week about municipal government and leadership, and they were just very bright. It was at St. Eugene's. They gave our invocation tonight. They were very bright and asked wonderful questions. They had them all written down on little pieces of paper, and I could see it was their own handwriting and stuff, and maybe they'd had some help, but they asked great questions. What do you think Wendell will look like in 5 years and 10 years, and just really well thought out questions. They ranged in age from kindergarten to about 11 or 12. So you can imagine there was a variety of questions and comments. But the best one that I got was one I've never received before, and it was, how fast does your golf cart go? And can we go for a ride? So I wanted to tell the chief, if you see me flying around town at 28 miles an hour with 3 little boys in seatbelts, that's what's going on, because they said, if we wave at you, will you give us a ride? I said, I absolutely will. So it was really cute. They asked great questions, though. They were very polite and sat still the whole time and didn't fidget, and I have boys, so that can be tough. So they were very nice, and I appreciate the invitation and being invited. And that's all I have. I believe we need a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we head into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A in reference to item number 3.
All right, we have a motion to go into closed session. All in favor? All right.